Hello guys, we are covering the methods of job analysis, and within the methods of job analysis today we are covering job elements approach. Now what is job elements approach? It heavily relies on elements, and this was given by Ernest Primoff at the Federal Office of Personnel Management. Now this method focuses on elements. And what are some of the elements? Some of the examples of elements here are knowledge, skill, abilities, which is also known as KSAs. Also, it could also involve willingness, interest, personal characteristics. So it could involve that. Now let's see the four factors or the four parameters that you could differentiate or distinguish them upon. So you can differentiate these skills on the basis of four parameters, which are barely acceptable worker, superior worker, trouble if not considered, and practical. This is a very different approach from the rest of the approaches, and this approach is very interesting also. So let's understand this with the help of an example. Okay, so let's take an example. So let's say I am doing the analysis, and the analysis of the job that I am doing is that of a nurse. So what is the analysis that I am doing? The analysis of the job of a nurse. Okay. Now first of all, as I explained, we need what? We need elements. So what are my elements? Okay, let's say my first element is a degree, and let me take my second element as compassion. Let's say compassion, and let's take one of the skills as English proficiency. Okay, so I have now figured out my elements. So I've decided on the basis of these elements I will be doing the analysis of this job. Okay, now barely, what is barely acceptable workers? Okay, so this means the person you will barely hire will also possess this skill. So would you ever hire a nurse who does not have a degree? Would you ever hire such a nurse? Would you put the life of your patient and in danger ever and hire someone who does not have a degree in nursing? I don't think you would. So yes, a barely acceptable worker would possess this skill or this element. Okay, but would it be enough to differentiate you from an average worker or a superior worker? This is the difference between an average worker and a superior worker. So is degree something that would differentiate? No, I don't think it would, because all the nurses have a degree. So this wouldn't be the differentiating factor. So no. Okay, would this job be performed if this skill is not there? So can you be a nurse without a degree? I don't think you can. So yeah, no. Is it practical for the company to look for such people? Yeah, that's very basic. The company should look for people who have a degree in nursing. Now let's come to the second example, or the second element from my example, which is compassion. Okay. Compassion. Someone who's barely acceptable, would they have compassion? They would and they wouldn't. It does not really create a difference. But that is not something, or that is not the basic skill that you're looking for. The nurse can have compassion, she cannot have compassion, it does not matter. So, no. Does compassion really create a difference between the superior workers and the average workers? I don't think so. Would very advanced coding skills make a difference for a programmer? Yes, they would. So that is how you differentiate between an average worker or a superior worker. Or an average employee would just do the routine task, but a superior worker would possess things like great leadership skills, great communication skills. So there is something that should differentiate you from average workers to the superior workers. Okay. Would the company be in trouble if the nurse does not have compassion? No, I don't think so. It is not necessary. Is it practical for the company to be looking for nurses who are compassionate? It could be and it couldn't be. So yeah. Now that we've covered compassion, let's come to English proficiency. Would the nurse be able to communicate in English? Is that a basic skill that you require? No, it is not. Not in India, I don't think so. That is a skill that you would require the nurse to have. Now, would English proficiency differentiate you and an average worker? I don't think it would. That would not make much difference. Is it a problem if your nurse does not know English? Is it practical for you to be looking for nurses who can talk in English? Yes, it is practical. You can find those kind of people in market, and it is very much practical for you to look for nurses who are proficient in English. So what happens in this model is you have 4 parameters which remain constant. So these are the 4 parameters: practical, troubled if not considered, superior worker, and barely acceptable workers. These are the 4 parameters which remain constant, and these are the 4 elements, or the 3 elements that I have chosen. You can always change this, and this would always depend from the job to job, but since I was covering a nursing job, I thought these are the best parameters for my company. These parameters are better known as elements, so you will always call them elements, and these are the skills that I think this person should definitely possess. So yeah, that is the explanation of the job elements approach from the methods of job analysis. Thank you so much.